the home of the Spalding champion and Ferrari's biggest fan. As today we are going to go and start the final fourth of the 2025-2025 FI Formula 1 season with around 19 of the championship that you can see on that wonderful calendar right up there behind me, which is of course the proper United States Grand Prix. So we are racing here, in the sort of greatest nation in the world, 3 times, this year just like last year and the year before, and we are coming to the track, nicknamed very, very eloquently the Circuit of the Americas, right? And it is a great circuit. We will introduce it to you. We will also, of course, in this exclusive race introduction to the 4th Sprint Grand Prix weekend of the season and the first of the final 6 races of this final 4th of the season. We will, talk about just how successful our Scuderia Ferrari were we here. Can we get our 2nd sprint victory? Can we perhaps finally win a Grand Prix? It's not looking that rosy. We just had 3 races where we were big favorites and came up, considerably short. But in this race introduction, we will tell you, everything about the history and why I think, the final 4th of the season could be very successful, even though, of course, we are kind of out of the constructors, title, which has already been won by McLaren, which is a real pity. So we have to kind of rearrange our objectives nowadays. We, of course, always fight with that attitude of never say never. But because now the only possibility for us is to finish 2nd in this championship, we will take a look at both of the standings. We will tell you what we expect from the weekend, why it could be great. Again, with the sprint, there will be lots of racing action, and what I'm really happy about is, as for the final 10 races of the season, definitely for the final 4th, the final 6 races of the season, they are run in the exact order, just like in the 2024-2024 season, which is fantastic. So you will see this race introduction rather unusually, but kind of usually for the sprint races, which is the 24 hours before the free practice starts. Then you will see the actual hot lap with the F1 24 cars, with which we might be aiming for winning the World Championship for the 4th time. You will definitely see this weekend. So you will then see that hot lap as the free practice 1 gets underway, and that will be actually I do believe it will be slightly different, because the race introduction will actually be 48 hours before that, and we will see 24 hours before the free practice 1. You will of course see the hot lap, then the F1 25 hot lap, and then the solitary free practice. You will then see the red hot lap to see exactly just how fast we can go, and then with the sprint qualifying, we will run it at exactly the same time. Same for the sprint race, which we hope to obviously win, because we will be also talking about our achievements, which are not as great here at the Circuit of the Americas, but we will be hoping to go 1 better than we went last year, and then we go to the proper qualifying, just like the real Formula 1 drivers will go. Then for the Grand Prix, before that, 24 hours after the sprint, you guys will get an exclusive sprint reaction, hopefully with Lewis Hamilton winning the 2nd sprint for Ferrari, or Charles Leclerc, getting on the top step of the podium. If not, then after the Grand Prix, 24 hours after that, you will then of course see the race reaction, and we really hope that it will be a great race reaction, because we will be winning for Scuderia Ferrari, right? Yes. So over here, what to tell you with regards, to the news before we take a look at it. There's not much to decide. Obviously, some of the seats they will have to be kind of filled in, right? But for us, I do believe, thankfully with that penalty from the Singapore, right, for Hamilton losing the brakes, we should be coming with a clean sheet of paper into this race, and that's very, very important, right? So we not carrying any penalties over there. All of the team principals, all of the drivers, should be racing, but obviously at the time of the recording, nothing has been decided about the remaining seats, so we don't know, for example, if we will have some of the different drivers being there or not. I think you can already tell when we are doing, for example, when we are looking at the table, who will be there and who will not be there. But what we also know is, for example, the calendar for the 2026, the 2026 Formula 1 season. Obviously, the regulations, everything, it's ramping up, and it will be quite different, especially, the sprint weekends, for example. So, unlike, this year, we will be, for example, going to Singapore for a sprint, which will be very interesting, as you know. So, actually quite a lot of things to look forward to. But then again, I actually quite like this format because with lots of sprints in the final fourth of the season, the title challenge is really heating up. We might have 2 or 3 drivers who really have the chance to become overall champions this year. So there are plenty of points still on offer, which is of course great because it can keep the championship going for longer, right? We definitely now with 6 races to go, there's no more fight in the Constructors' Championship, which went right down to the wire, right down to the Yes Marina circuit there in Abu Dhabi, but that won't be the case sadly this year. But hopefully we will retain our second position, so we will definitely see how it goes. So yeah, that would be with regards to the news. So now let's take a look at the race circuit, and obviously Hamilton and Leclerc will be driving, maybe not with the SF1000T in 1.8 Formula 1 Racing Simulator that you can see here to my left, but I will definitely be driving it. So let's turn around, discover the red Retina iMac, and see the track and our achievements over here before we of course take a look at how successful I was over here. So we have to say, as we are aiming to win this shiny golden Formula 1 Grand Prix winner trophy here, just like we did, for example, last year, this could be the track, that could fit us. Actually, lots of the circuits, even in Brazil, we've used to be competitive in the past, right? These are now no tracks like, for example, Azerbaijan, Baku, where we've actually never won, only been on pole position. So definitely nothing is lost, right? I would say the next 4 races that you can see, the United States Grand Prix, the Mexico, the Brazilian Las Vegas Grand Prix, definitely possibly, winning all of them. 2 of them are also sprints, and if Qatar and Abu Dhabi, I've always won Abu Dhabi, so I'm really surprised why we are not so competitive, in a real life there. And Qatar, obviously, people are saying that the Middle Eastern races won't suit us, but who knows, we were supposed to be, coming here to the United States Grand Prix with 3 wins on a trot, but instead of, we are coming here on one of the longest routes in the recorded history. The only longer ones would be obviously going back to the 2023 season, obviously, where, it was lots of wins by the Red Bull until Sainz won there in Singapore. So over here, hopefully we can break that rather bad spell of the bad luck, and it will be at the circuit. So when we turn this red Retina iMac around, I think you can see it nice and clear over here. And you can see, the track, it looks, quite amazing, doesn't it? And it is, definitely a challenging track, right? So, as you will see in the run, however, again, let me reiterate that it will be 24 hours, before the actual, solitary free practice starts and then the sprint qualifying. We will be starting over here. Obviously, lots of fans now always flock this venue over here. This is as on the Ferrari.com website put it, the vertiginous climb here to the turn 1. It is blindsided. It cost me some really good starts and made some of the races very difficult. It is unsighted, so this for me is a key corner, because if you can get it right, you can then go on these S's, kind of they mimic kind of the Suzuka or the Meggetts and Beckett's that you have. This track has basically been designed, that climb, right, that you have, it's quite unusual, that's taken from the old Osterich ring, right, then was renamed as the A1 ring because located in Austria, and of course, then the Red Bull ring. So, that's how, the track is then basically done, and, this section, it's basically downshifting, you're always going slower and slower. It is actually quite challenging, but I've been getting better and better at it. And once you kind of get used to it, it wouldn't be my preferred way. I have to say the Circuit of the Americas is one of my least favorite tracks, but when you get it right, it's a real pleasure, right? Then it's very, very important over here to get, I would say, that turn 9 right? Because if you can, hit the apex right, you can really accelerate, get to the detection point here quicker. If you wanna, get behind the guy on a DRS, we should enjoy the DRS final 6 Grand Prix and 3 sprints of the DRS kind of live over here, because in the 2026, the cars will be running without the DRS, as you guys know. Then on the main straight, again, this is a difficult, turn to get, but once you get here, to the top, you will be hoping for a top speed, so well over 200 miles per hour, like Brad Pitt put it. He actually drove McLaren right around this track. Why not Ferrari? But yeah, obviously, great actor with that Formula 1 movie, right? Our favorite, our hero as well, like Michael Schumacher. And yeah, it was great to see him, drive the car. I would say, come on, Brad, you really have to be, almost full throttle. You gotta make sure you spin the wheels as little as possible coming out of this corner, and then you can hit 200 miles per hour or even significantly more. And then yeah, you are going to go through a lot of these corners, actually a lot of great overtaking opportunities, different lines, and just be careful. This obviously the triple kind of the apex of turn 16, 17, 18, which mimics the Turkish, the turn 8, because the Turkish, the Istanbul Park is no more part of the Formula 1 championship. So it's great to see the kind of being honored in this way by the Circuit of the Americas. Just be careful over here in turn 19, so no mosquito bites you and you don't run off the track. And yeah, this is pretty much how the circuit looks like over here. You can see we've been racing in the United States in 1959. Obviously before that, when it was difficult to transport all of the equipment, you do know that mostly, the Indianapolis used to be the first American race that was part of the Formula 1 World Championship, but usually the kind of the full-time teams would be taking place, right? Because F1 at the beginning was mostly the championship that was run in Europe, even though we always had the races on at least 2 continents in every single season. And then once the Formula 1 cars started coming to the dedicated circuits, not just Indy 500 being part of the championship, there's a long history, right, that came to an abrupt end, of course, in 2000, I believe it was in 2007, when, of course, 1 year, 2 years after that fiasco with the tires, there was a delay, but now you can see the American market is the strongest for Formula 1. 56 laps, fastest lap, Charles Leclerc. So that is boding up really, really well. You can see it's quite a scenic, Texas countryside. Obviously, we love going to Texas Roadhouse, which is one of the famous restaurants, with that serves the food of probably, the most iconic American state, and we definitely do recommend it. It winds nicely through the countryside, even though Austin obviously pales in no comparison to Miami or Las Vegas in terms of the entertainment, I believe. So this is how the track looks like. Hopefully there won't be any cyclones or, for example, the hurricanes impacting it just like they were 10 years ago, and the race will be good, and we will be aiming for our 12th victory on the United States soil as part of the United States Grand Prix. Of course, we won here twice with Raikkonen, surprisingly, of course, in 2018, 2018, his last win for Ferrari, and of course with Charles Leclerc last year. 9 pole positions over here. Obviously, Sainz and Leclerc have gotten one each in the ground effect era. 12 fastest laps, a couple courtesy of Vettel, but especially most of the wins, 5 came courtesy of Michael Schumacher, also one of the fastest laps, and the pole positions that were, of course, run and that modified for Formula 1. The Indianapolis, the 500 circuit, which I believe that would be the proper home for the United States Grand Prix. Maybe one day it will return. It would be great to have 4 races, right, out of the 24, of course, here on the Formula 1 calendar. So yeah, here 29 podiums. So definitely, I think we can make it on a podium. It will be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, this will be actually a critical track, because if we are not competitive here, lots of these, you can see basically the remaining 5 out of the 6 tracks, they are really the full-time circuits, the permanent tracks. So if we cannot be fast here, then maybe the only hope would be Las Vegas. So this is how the history looks like, how the track looks like. I described it very well, so definitely do check out that hot lab at F125 hot lab, so you know how to drive it. And now let's take a look at who we will be competing against in the 2025 Drivers' Championship. You can see Oscar Piastri leading with 336 points, and his progress has stalled a little bit, right? People thought after Zandvoort, this is it, Norris has no chance, but he is on 314 points, 22 points behind, and definitely the fireworks, can be there. because Max Verstappen third for Red Bull Racing 273 points has an outside chance of or outside shot of making it 5 titles in a row that only Michael Schumacher has achieved in Formula 1. But just like for us, for example, I do believe the competitiveness of the Red Bull will not be very good. They might be coming back to what happened, for example, in Hungary, right, or even Belgium. Remember, Barcelona, for example, is very similar actually in terms of the corners that it has, like the circuit of the Americas. So I wouldn't be surprised if actually the Red Bulls are gonna be weak here, and we are gonna be challenging or even in front of the McLarens. But again, if the pecking order has changed, this could be very exciting final fourth of the season. Fourth is then George Russell, Mercedes. We don't know when Mercedes-Benz stands. They are our main competitors now, 237 points. We definitely got a reel in George. Could Charles Leclerc do it? He has won here last year for Ferrari, 173 points, 5th place in the standing. So definitely, we hope that Charles, can win again. Lewis Hamilton, obviously, he will love to go to America. He is 6th in the standing for Ferrari, 125 points, and it would be great to at least for him to get on the podium. The qualifying will be crucial, and hopefully, a strong sprint will, bring lots of confidence to us so that we can, go to the Americas and end the races in October on a high note, just like we did last year. Now here we then have 7, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, Mercedes, a little bit on form recently, 88 points. Can he make it to 100? We will see. Then 8, Alexander Albon Williams, 70 points. 9, Isaac Hadjar Racing Bulls, 39 points. 10, Nico Hülkenberg kicks over 37 points. But knocking on the top 10 is Fernando Alonso, I think a long time coming for Aston Martin, 36 points. I do believe after obviously having the sprint and the Grand Prix, he will be in the top 10. Now he's 11. 12 is Carlos Sainz Williams, 32 points. Finally he has improved as of late. Otherwise, that could have been the end of his Formula 1 career. 13, Lance Stroll, Aston Martin, 32 points. Can he out-qualify Alonso? It's 30-0 in the last 30 qualifying sessions. Hugely embarrassing for Stroll, but we know why that is. 14, Liam Lawson, Racing Bulls, 30 points. 15, of course, Esteban Ocon has 28 points. 16, Pierre Gasly, Alpine, 20 points. 17, Yuki Tsunoda, Red Bull Racing. Okay, I think we can say probably Tsunoda definitely not gonna continue with the Red Bull. We will see what happens to him in the future. 20 points. We hope that he stays out of form or off form, because if he would start picking up the points, who knows? That could make that fight for the second in the Constructors' Championship quite interesting and kind of unwelcome from our perspective. 18, Gabriel Bortoleto, reigning F2 champion for Kick Sauber on 18 points. 19, Oliver Behrman has 18 points. The result in Singapore will do him good, and he could be starting getting close to his teammate Ocon and maybe even jump the 3 drivers that are ahead of him, going from 19 to 16 in the standings. Obviously, he is still the outside bet for a Ferrari seat in the future, right? Ferrari junior driver, so we will see how he performs. 28, Franco Colapinto, Alpine. Now he's back in the Americas, so can he get some points? So we will definitely see what happens with Colapinto. He's on 0 points, and then of course 21st, Jack Doohan, Alpine. He won't be competing here in the circuit of the Americas on 0 points. Okay, so over here, everybody, let's take a look at the constructor standing. So McLaren already confirmed champions with 650 points. A real pity. We can only say congratulations to them, but the best fashion will be back very soon. Second is Mercedes, 325 points. They really pull up a gap of suddenly 27 points on us. Scuderia Ferrari, we are third, 298 points. But with so many points on offer in the sprint, definitely we want to close down to Mercedes. It would be great if we recover that position. If not, let's do it after Mexico. Ford, Red Bull Racing, much closer to us now than a couple of races ago. 290 points. The Red Bull could only dream of stealing our 3rd place or even getting to the 2nd place. If Yuki Tsunoda or whoever is going to be driving the 2nd Red Bull starts picking up some points. Otherwise, I think they're still pretty much out of it. 5th, Williams now, 102 points. Well done to them, scoring more points than in a previous half a dozen seasons. 6th, Racing Bulls, 72 points. 7, Aston Martin, 68 points. Alonso trying his very best to get it Aston Martin to 6th, maybe even 5th in the standings. 6th, I guess, is definitely on the cards. Then we have 8, Kick Sauber, 55 points. points, 9 has 46 points, 10 Alpine 20 points. They kind of lost the touch. So you can see that, you know, it's kind of establishing, you know, the order. And yeah, you know, for us, you know, definitely we would love to, we will be aiming to regain the second place from Mercedes-Benz, but definitely we don't want that gap to grow, you know, anymore. We want that gap to get less and less. And then in the Drivers' Championship, you know, we gotta go get close to George Russell. You know, I think, you know, if we would finish 4th and 5th in the standings, but probably 5th and 6th will be the best that we can do. But again, you know, there are more points, you know, that you might have imagined. So, and you know, we will start, you know, for a driver, you know, that's 33 points on offer at Circuit of the Americas, you know, and there are 2 more sprints to go. So you can see that just 100 points that you could get, you know. So even though you are, you know, over 50 points behind, actually you can make up that gap really quickly. Just look at how Mercedes pull up the gap on us. I cannot believe it. So over here, that was about us, and now we will end our traditional race introduction, of course, by looking at us, looking at, yeah, the Spartan champion, and how well I perform over here. And I have to say, you know, I've done a fantastic job over here at the Circuit of the Americas. The first time I went here in 2016, and that's where my solitary victory, you know, comes from. You know, I've been on a pole position once for a Grand Prix, one for the 2023 spring race. You know, I've in a sprint I only finished, you know, second to Russell, you know, obviously, so I got 1 podium there. But you know, actually, I haven't finished the 2017, 2017, and 2023 Grand Prix. So I will just, you know, be aiming, you know, to see the checkered flag. But especially us, you know, I'm very excited because I'm aiming, you know, to win the 4th Formula 1 Drivers' Championship. So hopefully, you know, again, everything will go well. You know, I'm just buoyed by the great victory in Singapore. Again, this is the track that obviously hasn't been that kind to me, you know, recently, but you know, the fastest laps, which now I'm on a fantastic run of, as obviously all of you fans know, you know, will be absolutely crucial, right? And I've gotten one in 2016 and also in 2023 in that weird race that Joe won, of course, but also, for example, for a sprint. So again, we will have a sprint, we will have a race, so we will be aiming for our second Grand Prix victory, the first sprint victory. We will be aiming to put it on the second Grand Prix pole position and second sprint pole position, and hopefully we can record our 3rd fastest lap and the 2nd sprint fastest lap. You know, so a lot to play for. I hope that you guys, it will be a lot of fun here as we will go on the rodeo of Formula 1 racing. Let's enjoy it. It will be like that next year, and let's hope that it will all end with Scuderia Ferrari winning the shiny golden Formula 1 Grand Prix winner trophies, right? So I hope you enjoyed. I thought it was very, very informative. And now, you know, after another, you know, nice break over here, there will be lots of racing. Obviously, you know, as you do know, you know, in the remaining 8 weekends, there are 6 Grand Prix, 3 of them sprints. You guys, let's go and race!